everyone, we're continuing in our measurement unit, and today we are going to take a look at elapsed time, and we're also going to review time for the beginning of the lesson. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, this should be a review from 3rd grade of just units of measurement and time, and it is nice because unlike the metric and the customary systems of measurement, how we measure time is pretty much universal. Everyone uses the same. And so we're going to look at some different measurements here. So we always start off with 1 second. That's the smallest unit of measurement that is used, by most individuals. Seconds can be broken down, to parts of a second, like when we did our one math problem, about the Olympic swimming race. But still, 1 second is the smallest unit. And so how many seconds make up a minute? Right, 60. And then how many minutes make up an hour? 60 again. And then when we talked about, in science, remember we talked about days and years. And so how many hours are in a day? 24, right? And remember, that has to do with the rotation of the Earth on its axis. It takes 24 hours for the Earth to complete one full rotation. And then how many days are in a year? Right, on a normal non-leap year, there's 365. And so remember, that's just how long it takes the Earth to completely go around the sun one time. So a bit of math and science overlapping here. So again, this is just review, and you notice up here it's kind of easy to remember. There's 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. So that is something that's important to keep in mind moving forward. And so before we really get started, here's some quick notes on time. When you probably hear people all the time talk about AM and PM, and so just remember that AM becomes, I'm not sure what exactly it stands for. I think it's French or Latin. It stands for, before the middle of the day. And so it refers to the morning whenever we say AM. And PM, I think if you translated it, it would literally be, after the middle of the day. And so that refers to, the afternoon or the evening times is always PM. And so because of this, we have the times of 12 a.m. and that is actually midnight. So, if you've ever stayed up for New Year's, everyone cheers at midnight. And that's technically the beginning of the next day. So 12 a.m. is midnight, and then 12 p.m., that's the afternoon. That's the time when we're normally awake. It's usually right around lunchtime for most folks. And so that's kind of the tricky part, because you're thinking like, oh, it's morning up until then. So you think it'd be AM, but it's actually 12 p.m. Is afternoon, and that is the time that actually starts, that transition from morning to afternoon. And just a couple quick benchmarks here is that, if anyone ever says a half hour, well, they're referring to 30 minutes. If we took, the 60 minutes in an hour and divided it by 2, we would get 30. And then if people say a quarter of an hour, you might have asked someone the time and they might have said, it's a 3:15. Well, if you took the 60 minutes of an hour and if you divided it by 4, then you would get 15. And so quarter hours are equal to 15-minute increments. Okay? And so how do we read time? Well, there's a couple different ways. We have analog clocks over here, which are also based off of the ancient sundials that Greeks and Romans used. And so what happens is the, hands are moving around the clock. The small hand is the hour. And so you would read whatever, not always will be pointing directly at a number, but you would always read the number that it is closest to, that it has already passed. Okay, and so this one here would be 2, the hour would be 2, and then for the minute hand, when you go around the clock, if you start at noon, that's 0, and then you would count by fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So this analog clock here reads 2:25. Now we're not sure if it's AM or PM, and honestly, your best bet would just be to see what it looks like outside. If it's, 2:25 p.m. would be, the middle of the afternoon, so the sun would be out. Whereas 2:25 a.m. would be very, very, very early in the morning and most likely dark outside, unless you're in Antarctica or Alaska. And then we have digital. So this is, a pretty standard watch face, digital watch. And so this one says 12:34, and it even has a month, and temperature, and date, and all that. And then here, they actually, usually on a lot of digital faces, they will mark AM or PM somewhere. So that's a nice feature. But we have digital clocks and we have analog clocks. And so being able to read both of them is very important. So let's go ahead and start looking at elapsed time. So what exactly is elapsed time? Well, it's simply the difference between a starting time and an ending time. And so you've probably already solved some elapsed time problems in real life, because it is this is something that's used all the time, in real life. You probably didn't even know it. So let's say that you ran a race that started at 9:05 a.m. and you crossed the finish line at 10:15 a.m. That's a pretty decent amount of time for a 10K race. How long did it take you to run the race? So if you want to know how long it took, you would have to find the elapsed time, the difference between the start and the end, or the stop. And so here I have, it's a number line, and I know I don't have all my fancy little lines going here. And that's the thing, if you do use number lines to help you with elapsed time, don't get so caught up in the construction of the number line itself. You're really just trying to use it as a tool to help you get from start to end, okay? And so if your lines aren't exactly perfect, it's okay. This isn't like fractions where we have to try to make everything as accurate as possible. So I have a couple arrows here, and my arrows represent different increments or different amounts of time. And for me personally, I like to just add to the hours, because when I add an hour, I add 60 minutes. My minutes don't change, just my hour changes. Okay, so if I were to add 1 hour to 9:05, okay, I know that that would take me to 10:05, which works because I'm still not at 10:15 yet, okay, and that means that 1 hour has passed. And so now I just have to figure out how I would get from 10:05 to 10:15, and that's not very far at all. And so, when we're finding a difference, oftentimes you'd say, you're subtracting. But the nice thing with elapsed time is you can use a lot of algebraic thinking of, what's the missing number here. You can actually add instead, like, I've just done. And so if I wanted to think, okay, 5 plus what would get me to 15, okay, I know I would add 10. But I'm not adding hours this time, I'm adding minutes. So remember, the minutes come after the little dots here. So the hours are first, and then the minutes. So I'm going to put MI in here for minutes. Okay, and so if I add 10 minutes of this, I will end up at 10:15, my ending time. So now, to actually answer the question of how long did it take me to run the race, I would just add these amounts together. So it took me 1 hour and 10 minutes to run the race, which again is a very good time for a 10K. All right, so let's try one more. Now this time we're actually going to cross over midday. We're going to cross over noon. So how much time has elapsed from 9:35 a.m. to 1:43 p.m.? And again, you can do this a lot of different ways. If you want to add more than, 1 hour at a time, you can. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But I'm going to kind of play it safe, and I'm just going to do 1 hour increments. So I'm going to start at 9:35, and I'm going to add 1 hour. Okay, and that's going to take me to 10:35. Okay, I'm still in the AM. Sorry, it's very, very bad. And so that's 1 hour. Okay, I need to get all the way to 1:43. So I'm going to do another jump of 1 hour. Again, it does not have to be perfect. Okay, as long as you have enough room to write in your number line, you're good. That's going to take me to 11:35 a.m. Okay, so I'm going to do another hour here. Got a lot of hours to go. And that's going to take me to 12. Okay. And I just realized I've made my hour jumps very, very, very small. I should have made them a little bit bigger. So here's the question. Is this 12:35 a.m. or is this 12:35 p.m.? Okay, I have actually jumped past noon, okay, because I'm going up from, 9:35, 10:35, 11:35 to 12:35. Remember, like, these times a day are like, morning times. So like 9:35 is like, we're in class. 10:30 or 11:35 is like when we're heading to lunch. So if I wrote this as 12:35 a.m., all I have is going all the way back to midnight. So this is actually the switch to p.m. right here. Okay, so very important to make sure you do that. And then I still need to get to 1:43 p.m. So if I do another hour jump, and I'm going to make this one kind of big because I just realized I have tons of room left. That takes me to 1:35 p.m. Okay, and so I still need to get here though. So you can use a couple different ways. You could, just do 43 minus 35 to find out the difference. Or if you just want to keep adding, I'll just add 5 minutes here. And then that'll take me to 1:40 p.m. Okay. I need to get one of those like a mouse that's a pen, so it makes it a lot easier. And then I just need to get to that 3. So I'm at 1:40, 1:43. Well, I know that that's just 3 more minutes. So if I just add 3 more minutes here, I'll get to 1:43. So now, okay, it seems like we're done, but we're not, because elapsed time, is a total amount. And so yes, I have my lovely number line here. But I still need to go back and I need to add all these together. All right, so it's actually not that bad since I have it broken down into hours and minutes already. So let's see how many hours I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. Okay, and then I have 5 plus 3, that is 8 minutes. So 4 hours and 8 minutes passed from 9:35 a.m. to 1:43 p.m. using our number line. And real fast, there is another method of using a T-chart. And so it's pretty much the same thing that we did before. You're just writing, so here I'm going to add an hour. And so instead of, doing my number line, I'm just going to be writing my times on the left, and I'm going to be writing the increment that I jumped on the right. And so this is my ending time up here to kind of, remind me. So, you're going to see the same times here and the same amounts over here. And then oops, did anyone catch that? I made a mistake. All right. And then another hour, and just for time's sake, I'm just gonna go ahead and do my jump to 1:43. And I know that I added 8 minutes to that. So when you add all these up here, I cannot write, you'll get the 4 hours and 8 minutes again. For your homework today, you're going to do an elapsed time log. And that's it for today. Thanks.